Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are reacting to day number 8 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. There was some news on the field. There was some news toward the sideline of the field. There was a lot of injuries, players that didn't practice, players that did practice. Brock Purdy was shredding the defense. Ricky Pearsall was showing off a first-round talent, and a lot of good things from the 2023 Niners draft class. Dive into all of that today. I want to kindly ask you to like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening on the audio platforms, leave that review. And let's just dive into what transpired on the day at Levi Stadium on the practice field. It was a shorter practice compared to yesterday's long and grueling outing for the Niners. To start, the absences. Nothing has changed. Trent Williams still holding out. Brandon Aiyuk still holding in. I will say that Brandon Aiyuk, despite not practicing, despite so far not signing a brand new contract extension, did make some headlines, did make some waves today, walked onto the practice field, up the field, and just jolted right for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. There was some smiles, there was some handshakes. He dapped both of them up, and it really was a more, I don't want to say emotional, but there was definitely more exuberance from Brandon Aiyuk, whereas in the past couple of times he's been out there, faces covered, heads covered on the sideline, talking to either John Lynch or Talanoa Hufanga. But today was a day that had a lot of smiles that were coming from Brandon Aiyuk. Not sure what that means, but certainly worth noting because yesterday DJ Moore got paid, and there's been a lot of reports of maybe a trade possibly happening in the next few hours or few days or so. I don't think that is in regards to Brandon Aiyuk. I would assume that that is because a deal will get done relatively quickly. Now, again, it's a handshake, it's a high five, whatever it is. It's a couple smiles. It can be nothing. Maybe he was just happy to see his GM and head coach, for all we know. But it was definitely a different version of Brandon Aiyuk than we've seen the first few days of training camp. And no, Bobo, Trent Williams is not getting traded. No, he is not getting traded. This team needs Trent Williams more than it needs Debo, Aiyuk, and George Kittle. This team needs Trent Williams as much as the defense needs Nick Bosa. So Trent is not getting traded, although he is still holding out. Moving on to the injuries that we counted today, and in totality, including the two holdouts / hold-ins of Aiyuk and Trent Williams, I counted 15 players that did not take part in practice today. Again, some of them holding out, holding in. Other ones were actually injured. Isaac Garenda with the hamstring still out. John Feliciano still not practicing with a knee injury. Spencer Burford, the broken hand. Although he was doing some running on the sideline today, he didn't practice. He had a cast or a brace on his hand to protect the fractured hand that he currently has. I don't think he's had surgery just yet, but they have an off day tomorrow, so we'll see what news comes out of that. Jacob Cowing and Tay Martin didn't practice with hamstring injuries. Day off tomorrow, probably a great day for Tay Martin to make his training camp debut on Friday. Danny Gray, he was seen talking to a trainer during the warm-up period of things. Didn't have his pads on, so I'm not sure if he tweaked something. Not sure if it's more a precautionary thing, but Danny Gray did not practice today. And if you're counting off the top of your head, 3 receivers, Cowing, Martin, Gray. Aiyuk's already not practicing because of the hold-in, and Juwan Jennings also didn't practice today. I would assume Jennings is more of a veteran day off kind of thing, but I'm not entirely sure what that was. There was no clarity provided to us after after practice. So if you're counting, 5 receivers did not practice today, which will open the door for Ronnie Bell for sure, which it definitely did today. Logan Thomas didn't practice. Aaron Banks didn't practice. I would assume both those are veteran days off, but Logan Thomas is fighting for a roster spot, so I'm not sure. He's had a ton of injury history in the past, so we don't know what's going on there. Jarrett Kingston didn't practice, rookie offensive lineman from USC. Not sure what's happening there. So a lot of unknowns, a lot of Is it a veteran day off? Is it a rest day? Is it an injury? But hoping in the next few days or so, we can get some clarity. Javon Hargrave was the confirmed veteran day off. He didn't practice today. And then Curtis Robinson, linebacker, didn't practice as well with unknown injuries or whatever the cause was. We have no idea. But he did do some conditioning on the sideline. Then that brings us to Mitch Wishnowsky, which he didn't seem like he was hurt. He didn't seem like there was an issue, but the team worked out a punter, which usually doesn't happen unless there's an injury. I'm not sure if there was an exact reason given. I didn't hear one. I didn't see one. But Mitch Wishnowsky was not at practice today, and they worked out a punter. And then Renardo Green, which ends our injury conversation. Renardo Green returned to practice today after missing yesterday's practice. Bobo has a question. Do we have the financial room to give Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk what they want? Well, they have enough to extend Trent Williams because it lowers his cap hit. Aiyuk, at least for the first few years, yes, you can lower the cap hits, I think, in the first 2 or 3 years of a contract. But I think the way San Francisco can plan things out is Ayuk's contract can get big and nasty once Trent's contract is over. So we'll see. I don't think San Francisco is going to pay Aiyuk $30 million per year, but they will give Trent Williams whatever he asks for. Again, he's the Nick Bosa of the offense. He's the MVP of the offense. And you can argue Trent, outside of Brock Purdy, might be this team's most important player. He's that important to what they do offensively. But yes, they're going to pay both those guys, and they'll get things worked out. Some quick notes before we dive into what exactly happened on the practice field today. No Aaron Banks, no John Feliciano, no Spencer Burford, no Jarrett Kingston meant that Dominic Pooney, Nick Zakelj, and Ben Barch got a ton of reps with the first and second teams. Zakelj and Ben Barch alternated left guard, then center with the ones, and they flipped. So a lot of work from Nick Zakelj and Ben Barch. And honestly, 15 guys don't practice means 15 other players get reps in their place. Many of them young guys fighting for roster spots or veterans fighting for roster spots. So you hate to see injuries, but when someone else gets hurt, the next man up motto is usually in regards to middle of the season conversations and reaction to injuries. But even in training camp, next man up. Get in there and prove yourself, and hopefully you can win the job, right? So Zakelj and Ben Barch got a lot of work today. Dominic Pooney worked at left and right guard today as well, so good stuff from them and good opportunity for them as well. Kevin Givens replaced Javon Hargrave working with the first team, while Yetur Gross-Matos also worked in as an interior defensive lineman. So the Charles Omenihu inside-outside game is also now being worked in with Yetur Gross-Matos. I did count 3 sacks today. Nick Bosa, as always, got 1. Kevin Givens got 1, and Yetur Gross-Matos got 1. So 2 guys right there where Javon Hargrave's not going to practice. 2 guys in his place, Gross-Matos and Givens, both get in the backfield and get what would be sacks on the quarterbacks. No Curtis Robinson. Obviously, no Dre Greenlaw means Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles handled the majority of the third linebacker duties. The way things are working out through 8 days, right? It does feel like that San Francisco, despite them talking up D. Winters and Jalen Graham, who both did pretty well today, we'll talk about them later. It does feel like that we might see Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles start while Greenlaw's on the shelf for however long that is. I think Albert Breer said the hope is he's back by week 6 to 8. So that's a good sign for Dre Greenlaw. The expectation is around the bye week, he'll be back. So that's good stuff there. But I think in the meantime, it might behoove San Francisco to let the veteran player start the year as the, starter. And then if things progress poorly, you let Winters or Bethune or Graham kind of take over, or even Curtis Robinson take over and see what they can do in his place. So at the moment, DFF getting a lot of reps with the starters, which brings us to our final note of the non-practice conversation we're going to have, and that is Brandon Staley, as told to us by defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen, will be in the booth on game days, and Nick Sorensen will be on the sideline. So that's what I expected to happen. You would hate to have both those guys on the sideline. It would kind of be this who do I come and talk to kind of conversation being had of like, I'm like, who is the defensive coordinator here? I think having Staley up above, knowing he's working with the secondary, I think is a good thing. He can see more stuff up top. There's a reason why Steve Wilkes wanted to be in the booth. He's a defensive backs coach. You can see a lot more and help your secondary from up higher. It is a reason why Wilkes wanted to be up there. I think it's a reason as to why Staley, amongst many others, is going to be in the booth on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. Bobo again has a question in the YouTube chat. Says, I'm thinking of putting $100 on the Niners to win the Super Bowl at the casino to win 1,000 before the season starts. Would you make that bet? To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not much of a gambler myself. The most I gamble is $25 on fantasy football every single year, and I'm pretty darn good at that. So I kind of guaranteed to give my money back. But I would say don't take that bet. I'm pretty conservative with my money, so I would say no. I would take some of the long shots. I'd look at Houston. I would look at teams like Green Bay or Philadelphia. Not that I think they'll win, but just you can probably make more money off betting less. But that's just me. But if you're a confident Niner fan out there, which I don't think you are, Bobo, with the way you talk about Kyle Shanahan, maybe you don't make that bet. And mainly because it's super hard to get back-to-back years. To return to the Super Bowl is nearly impossible. What the Chiefs have done is just crazy, right? It took San Francisco, 4 years to get back or 3 years to get back? It's hard. It's a long, grueling journey. Now, they can do it for sure. The roster is set up to do that, but I would not make that bet. Lori Matthews says do it. So don't listen to me. Listen to Lori. Maybe she has some more advice to give, or maybe it's better advice than myself. But moving on to what actually transpired on the field today. And I think to start off the practice conversation, you have to begin at the top. It's that Brock Purdy threw 0 interceptions. He threw 7 picks the last 2 days. Today, an entirely different version of the starting quarterback. 0 interceptions. He looked sharp. He looked concise. He looked quick. He was avoiding pressure. He was just like he's touted to be, the number 28th ranked player in all football on the NFL Top 100 list, somehow still behind Dak Prescott and still behind Jalen Hurts, but that's a conversation for a different day. Hopefully next year that's changed when all things are said and done. But today he was really good. And I think we saw glimpses of this yesterday, right? Where he started off really hot, had a couple of touchdowns, and it was like, okay, Brock is back, right? Then things kind of fell apart towards the end with the handful of interceptions, which led to 4 of them in yesterday's practice. Today, different story entirely. 10 for 13 through the air, including 8 consecutive completions. Again, fought through some pressure, which the offensive line, with the kind of ragtag group they had, many people taking, doing double duty, Zakel and Pooney and Barch among them, which those guys, 2 of them might not even make the team. So not the greatest starting unit for Brock Purdy to work with, but even through that, performed really well. I think, when you look at what he did today compared to the last 2 days, healthier offensive line yesterday, right? But I think, you look at the struggles he's had, if you want to call them that, the last 2 days. Today was just, it was almost like those struggles didn't even happen. He flushed those, he moved on, and threw, for my count, 4 touchdown passes today. There was 3. One of them is kind of a potential would-be touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel, but was throwing the ball really pretty. I mean, you're talking, franchise quarterback stuff, things you come to know about Brock Purdy. And Lori Matthews says here, Brock just wants to keep the content creators interested through camp. You're right. You're right. And it's funny, Brock did talk about the interceptions today and essentially chalked it up to what we talked about yesterday. It was like, I'm trying stuff. If there's a time to, try to fit things into small windows and try to force the ball and to see what I can do and see what the receivers and cornerbacks are made of, now's the time. I think, people forget what practice is for. People, they expect, and I think it's because we've kind of grown used to the the quarterback competition the last few years, of whether it's Jimmy and Trey, or Trey and Purdy, and then whatever else is involved in there. But we've grown used to whoever the best man is wins, and now it's more so of the best man is so clearly ahead of everybody else. Like, there is no competition for the starting quarterback job. But people forget what practice is for. The practice is to make mistakes and screw up. And again, going back to my baseball past, we used to play a game called 27 outs. You played the game. It was all of practice. You're on defense. You play 27 outs. You have to get 27 straight outs. And whenever you make an error, you mess up, you have to start over. And you know what it does? It trains you to, one, in baseball, learn the bounce of the ball, be consistent, get your glove down, watch the ball into your glove, and tells you to be ballsy and try to make some diving plays and take risks and just make sure your mechanics are right. Same thing with football. You're going to try to throw footballs into the smallest and tightest of windows. See if you can fit the ball over a linebacker or two. See if you can throw it further than 65 yards through the air. Like, you're going to try things that you're going to fail at, and that's okay. Again, going back to baseball, if you're a pitcher again, you're trying new stuff, you're throwing new junk, you're going to get hammered during batting practice. That's the point. When you throw a simulated game and you're getting shelled, yeah. Now, do you want to get shelled and destroyed? No. You want to perform well, but if it comes at the cost of learning what you can and can't do, what you have to improve upon, that's okay. And that's what Brock Purdy said he was doing yesterday, which makes sense. It's like, yeah, again, is 7 picks good? No. But if it comes at the price of, in the Super Bowl in a playoff game, knowing you can fit the ball into the smallest of windows or try new things and be experimental with how you play quarterback. Look at the Chiefs. When Mahomes, and I mean, look, I get it. It's Patrick freaking Mahomes. I get it. They're always trying new creative things, plays, and because Mahomes has won MVPs and Super Bowls, you don't question him. Brock Purdy almost won a freaking Super Bowl, almost won the MVP last year. I'm not saying don't question him. I'm just saying don't give him that same level of, I guess, grade, or don't look at him the same way you do as Josh Dobbs and Brandon Allen. And even Trey Lance, for example. Like, when Trey Lance threw picks, it wasn't because he was trying things. It was because he was just bad. And we've seen that. And it's no knock on him. We've talked about Trey Lance a lot. It's just the way things are. Jimmy Garoppolo, for as good as he was, also bad at a lot of things. Brock Purdy really doesn't have a knock in his game. He's not perfect. No one's saying that. But he's a darn good quarterback that can do the majority of things at a high level. And I think for Brock, he's earned the respect to make the mistakes in practice, to master them when it comes to the games. Like, as soon as that clock and that ball gets kicked off, you expect Brock to be on his game because he's made the mistakes in practice enough to know what he can and can't do. That said, today, 4 touchdown passes by Brock Purdy, one of them to Ricky Pearsall, and we're talking, throwing the ball over 2 defenders, hitting Ricky Pearsall in stride for a touchdown. I think it was over Isaac Yiadom and Jair Brown. Just perfect over the back of the end zone. Again, over the cornerback and the safety. Beat both of them through the air. And this is also a big plus for Ricky Pearsall. But Brock Purdy, beautiful layered throw to Pearsall in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Then George Kittle, quick out towards the sideline, just bang, precise, hike, step, throw, touchdown. Easy stuff for your all-pro tight end, and good stuff for your all-pro or maybe eventually all-pro quarterback and Brock Purdy. Then the biggest surprise of the day was Ronnie Bell, without Cowing and Aiyuk and Juwan Jennings and Tay Martin and many others in that receiver room. Ronnie Bell got a lot of work today, a lot of work, and we'll talk about him in a second. But Even he caught a touchdown pass in the right corner. So Brock Purdy was cooking that defense today. And this is with Mooney Ward and Isaac Gadum and Lenore and Jair Brown and the starters out there minus Javon Hargrave, right? This was the number one, all one defense, right? So he wasn't playing against scrubs or backup cornerbacks. He was playing against the guys, and he was having himself a day at practice. There was a pass to Deebo Samuel where they were in the red zone and Purdy hit Deebo over the middle, likely a touchdown during the season. It definitely would have been a tough play and definitely would have had a massive collision towards the goal line. Not sure if he gets in, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It is Deebo Samuel. This is not, Cowing, or it's not, Chris Conley. It's Deebo Samuel, right? So you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I would say Brock Purdy threw 4 touchdowns today. One of them being a question mark, albeit again, I'm going to give Deebo the benefit of the doubt. Really solid day for all the talk of the interceptions and, he threw 7 and, people making, a very big deal of that, which, okay, that's fine. I think today was kind of one of those days for Purdy where it was like, just shut up. Just stop talking. Like, yeah, I threw 7 picks, so what, I can still be excellent and almost perfect today. 10 for 13, 8 completions in a row and 4 touchdowns. I mean, what else do you want? Like that is as, that's as efficient as you can be, right? So a really good day for Brock Purdy, which brings us to Ricky Pearsall, which today was arguably his number 1 receiver, even with Deebo Samuel being out there. Today was the Ricky Pearsall day. This was a display of what Pearsall can do and the reason as to why San Francisco drafted him in the first round. Fans complained for weeks after Pearsall got picked. I mean, man, Ricky Pearsall was phenomenal today. Now, I will say this, he did drop 1 ball, but to be fair, it was thrown behind him. He should have caught it, but thrown behind him by Brock Purdy, but did have 1 drop. But other than that, and we're talking, if it wasn't 100%, it was 99% on the day for Pearsall. He was phenomenal. He arguably had the best catch so far through training camp. The ball got deflected off D. Winters, and it was, up in the air, circus catch, one-handed grab, got his feet in bounds. It was like, this is, slick Rick for a reason. This is, whether you think he's going to be a starter this year, whether you think it's going to be, he's going to be a slot receiver. I mean, Pearsall looked phenomenal today. And that circus catch off D. Winters to get both feet in bounds and catch it one-handed, we're talking, pretty Ricky, right? It was phenomenal. There was a catch against Isaac Gadum for a touchdown. And again, that was the one where Purdy layered it over Yadam and Jair Brown to Pearsall in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And it was, again, very pretty. The one thing I love about Pearsall, the one thing I love that kind of attracted me to Ricky Pearsall was how smooth he is. And I get it, the nickname Slick Rick and all that stuff, but like, he is smooth as butter, man. You watch him run routes and you'll just gush and you'll kind of get lost in the trance. Like, I forgot what I was watching for a second because it was so pretty. For the men out there and even for the girls out there, when you see an attractive man or woman and you're like, whoa, look, I have to get shaken a little bit. Like, what did I just see? My mind kind of drew a blank and my eyes kind of glazed over because I was like, whoa, right? That's me when I see Dua Lipa or Sofia Vergara. This was me watching Ricky Pearsall run routes today. It was like, holy crap. Like, this guy is smooth. He's smooth on tape and in person. And today he was really, really good. There was a play where on an outbreaker, while Isaac Yadam guarded him, he just had like 7-yard separation. It was like bang, bang. It was like, and the one thing about him, quick acceleration, really, really, really fast separator. That's one of the things we talked about when they drafted him. You go back to, the scouting reports or the mock drafts. It was like, this guy, he's going to be open all the time. And he beat Mooney Ward today. He dropped the pass, but I mean, he cooked what is this team's number one cornerback and one of the most underappreciated players in all of football. He lit up Charvarius Ward. And we're talking not just 5, we're talking like 10 yards separation to a point where it was like, oh my goodness, this guy is going to, once he gets a handful of years under his belt, it's going to be night if they can keep together Debo and Aiyuk and Pearsall and Cowling and Kittle. Like, it is just like, this kid can take things to the next level. And if he's only a slot receiver in this offense, which he won't be, but let's say in the first year or so, that's what he is because they have Aiyuk and Debo together still. I mean, this kid, what he can do is off the charts. And today was fully on display. We have a question here from Eldon M. Paul Sr. on Facebook. The knock on him is that he can't beat press coverage. Is that true? I think it's a little hit or miss. Yes, there is credence to the take that a bigger body cornerback, you can somewhat jam him on the line of scrimmage. But I think the more he grows as a player, he'll start to beat that. I think the more he gets his body right, he gets an NFL shape, if you will, I think defensive backs will have a tougher time doing that. And I think that's one thing, Kansas City, Spags out there in KC loves to play press coverage with Duffy. Even last year with Snead playing safety, they bring him up and they play press. That's one thing Pearsall needs to get better at. But I think Shanahan is so good at getting his guys free releases that, while yes, you'll see it sometimes, there's so many weapons on this offense that if you take Ricky out of the play, you still got to deal with, Debo and Kittle and Aiyuk and Juwan and McCaffrey. And so I think, yes, there is credence to that argument, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal unless he is this team's number 1 or number 2 receiver, which could happen in a couple of years. But you have to expect Pearsall is going to eventually adapt to the NFL and get his body right, learn some new tricks, get quicker, get faster, and hit his prime. Which I think, again, well, yes, press coverage could be a problem in year 1, maybe even year 2. Once you get him settled into the NFL and into the offense, that's not going to be as big of a deal as it might be now. But a really good day from him. And we are talking, again, maybe outside of Debo's performance a couple weeks ago or, last week where he had 2 touchdowns, we're talking, best receiver so far in camp. Jennings has been good too, but without Aiyuk being out there and Cowling being hurt, Pearsall definitely taking advantage of things today. That brings us to Ronnie Bell, who, again, a lot of receivers out. Someone has to step up. Today, that was Ronnie Bell. And I just want to say this. For a player that is kind of on the bubble, that had an up and down rookie season where I think he caught 2 touchdown passes last year, so that's good stuff. He was trusted enough to play in bigger games, albeit mainly as a punt returner when McLeod got injured. And fumbled a couple times, which definitely hurt his stock. But today was a really good day for Ronnie Bell. Really, really strong day from him. His best day thus far in camp. When you have a young player that a 6th round pick, late round pick, 7th round pick, maybe, the expectation is he's likely not going to make the roster and probably going to be a practice squad player unless he can etch out a punt return job or a return man job on the depth chart, which isn't likely knowing who's on the team. That said, when you have a day like this, it gives you confidence. I truly believe that Ronnie Bell isn't a 6th round pick talent. That said, you can tell he just needs to get confidence. You can tell that, through his first NFL season last year, he's just kind of waiting. Like, he knows he can do better. And I think today he caught a pass and he threw the ball against the wall, like, kind of letting out some aggression of like, finally, I'm finally getting involved in the offense. And today was a big day for him. He went up and got the ball a handful of times. And in fact, it wasn't Charvarius Ward's best day. He got beat by Pearsall, although on a drop pass. And then Ronnie Bell just mossed him. He went up there and got the football, brought it back down. And it was like, okay, Ronnie, like, again, you're not beating backups. You're beating number 1 cornerbacks on this team. Really nice catch from him to go up there. And, I think for young players, Ronnie Bell, Pearsall, Cowling, You can get a little gun shy during training camp going up against the number one defense. And I think, it's always good to see younger players kind of living up to that moment and taking it in stride and saying, you know what, like, what do I have to lose? Right. Like, if I perform well, I gain everything. And if I lose, okay, I'm a rookie. I'm a second year player. That's supposed to happen. Right. So I think Ronnie Bell is kind of just biding his time to get an opportunity. Will it happen this year? I have no idea. But if injuries continue to linger for Cowling and Tay Martin and Aiyuk holds out or holds in, excuse me, and Juwan Jennings doesn't practice for a handful of days. Who knows, right? Ronnie Bell had a really nice day today. Caught a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone in the right corner from Brock Purdy. Also caught a touchdown pass in red zone work with Ambry Thomas draped all over him. It even worked as Deebo Samuel's backup, which is what McLeod did a lot last year. So a lot of work today from Ronnie Bell. A lot of really nice things. Fought through a lot of contact to make the catches. 2 touchdown catches for him on the day. A really, really, really strong day from a receiver that just needs an opportunity. Last year he got one, but this year much, much tougher. And when your team drafts 2 receivers, first round pick and middle of round pick, the odds you make the roster are slim. The longer other guys are out, the better for Ronnie Bell. And I think, if you can take today and stack, Friday and Saturday, whenever else they practice after that, you are going to make an impression. Today was a really kind of breakout day for him, and I hope it continues. That brings us to Cam Latu, which the only reason why I'm bringing up Cam Latu's name today is because he's had 2 good back-to-back practices dating back to Monday. And today wasn't his best day as a receiver. The hands were, a little more stone-like, a little more brick-like. Had some butter on them. He had some popcorn before practice, but and he also wasn't getting releases. But I think that as a blocker, you can find a role as a tight end in this system if you block. And today it was a nice blocking day in the running game for Cam Latu. This team does not have a set tight end 2 or 3 or even a 4. Everything's up for grabs. I would assume Eric Saubert's making the team at least as tight end 3. As of now, I have him as tight end 2. That said, there is an opportunity for Braden Willis, Logan Thomas, and Cam Latu to become the tight end 2. If you block, you get the rock. The only issue is with Cam Latu, if you block well, you got to catch the rock once you get it. So I think for him, again, be consistent, but overall, he's back and forth, kind of good and bad day from him, positive and negatives. But if you block, you will play. This team doesn't usually frequent passes to their backup tight ends. Not Ross Dwelly, not Charlie Warner the last couple of years. So I think, I think that it was a good day. The last 3 practices are a good sign from Cam Latu. Jalen Moore had his 3rd straight solid practice today again at left tackle in for Trent Williams. Was he perfect? No, but I think in 1v1s, when you hold up against Nick Bosa and you get a round of applause from your offensive linemen around you, that's a big deal. And Jalen Moore has, in the last 3 practices, put things together somewhat. Obviously, come game time, we shall see what he does. And during preseason, we'll see what he does. But so far, I think he's had a pretty solid week of practice. Again, when you can block and hold up against Nick Bosa, it's not going to happen often. But when you do, relish that moment. And I think, Jalen Moore, for as much as he gets hate or people kind of scoff at him, the last 3 days, pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. Dominic Pooney, he had an up and down day for Dominic Pooney. He had a couple good days in a row, back with the starters today, with Feliciano and Burford and Banks not practicing, got a lot of work, which is good. That said, early portions of 1v1s, he lost a rep to Jordan Elliott, who looks extremely strong. Looks like he's going to be a monster in the run defense game, which will be his specialty. But Chris Forrester kind of pulled Puni aside and was like, look, it was kind of teaching him hand placement, what can you do better? And kind of getting on him a little bit. You can tell it's like, look, like you're a rookie, but I'm not going to treat you any different. You have to learn this, that, and the other. So good stuff from Chris Forrester teaching Dominic Puni. And the good thing is, very next rep, Puni won against McGill. So you can see Puni being a quick learner. When he's taught something, he takes it in stride, doesn't get down. That's one thing I couldn't do. When a coach pulled me aside, I took things too personally. Dominic Puni is the exact opposite. He's like, look, I want to be the best. You ring me around the rosy all day long. As long as I can get better, it's all I care about. Today, a learning moment for him, but ultimately bounced back and had a relatively nice day at practice. To the defensive side of things, Kalia Davis, he is someone that I said was probably not going to make the roster. I thought this team was a little deep at interior defensive line, and I thought that the injuries he's had, his clock was ticking. But I'm happy to say, really nice practice today. Didn't play too much, but got in the backfield a handful of times and stuffed a couple, halfback tosses and got a couple TFLs. So a good day from Kalia Davis. There are a handful of players I really want to see during preseason. He's one of them because all the talk was he'll be like DJ Jones. He'll be a run-stuffing cannonball-like player, and that really hasn't happened through 2 years. But, this 2023 draft class, I think he was 2021, but a lot of young players today, proving themselves. Kalia Davis, Dominic Puni, Ronnie Bell, which brings us to the next two linebackers, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. Now, the linebacking position is it's not thin in regards to actual depth. It's so young and unproven. You're kind of like, what's the deal? Like, who's going to separate themselves? And early on, it was Tatum Bethune. He's kind of taken a step back in the last few days, whereas today, D. Winters and Jalen Graham took a step up. And I think, it's not going to be every day. There's going to be inconsistencies with young players like Winters and Graham, but D. Winters today, outside pitch to Jordan Mason, went back there and blew it up, got a TFL. It's like, yes, there's instincts. There's recognizing the play. Like, there are things you like. There's quickness there, and it's good stuff. Jalen Graham, who I think impressed more than Winters did today, mainly because he hits so freaking hard. Him and Jake Tongues there was a play in the flat, and he was covering Jake Tongues, and Jalen Graham just laid that sucker out. And it was like, whoa, like, okay. It would have been for a loss had Tongues actually caught it or actually been an actual game, but he laid him out. Then later he stuffed Elijah Mitchell for a short gain. And you can just tell that, people always forget these are young men learning new things, and college is not the NFL, right? Some players go to a certain system. If you play defense or receiver at Bama, you're likely going to translate pretty quickly. If you play quarterback or, running back at Georgia, you're probably going to translate pretty quickly, right? And if you play, when you play at Purdue, when you play at, TCU, who are good schools, mind you, no one's knocking them, but it's not, D1 big name schools, where they're going to have 15 draft picks that year. It's like you're lucky to have 2. So it takes time with these guys. And I think, Graham more than Winters than what we've seen so far. Maybe I'm wrong here. I haven't seen too much of Winters this training camp. But today, Jalen Graham, it looked like things were finally slowing down. Nick Sorensen said in his post-practice press conference that things were kind of finally clicking for him. And Graham today looked a little comfortable, or more comfortable than he had in previous practices and even last year as a whole. I still believe that Jalen Graham can etch out a goal line linebacker position because he comes downfield so freaking fast. where, you know, he is a nickelback or safety playing linebacker. His body, needs to get, a little stronger and needs to get more prototypically linebacker built. But, you know, in year two, for as hard as he comes down and as hard as he hits, I mean, man, like there's no reason as to why he couldn't be a linebacker opposite Fred Warner at the goal line, because he's going to hit somebody one day and that ball's going to pop out. Like when I think of goal line stances, although it really wasn't one, when Dante Whitner knocked out Pierre Thomas, I was like, whew, that got me lit up in the playoffs, right? Jalen Graham kind of has a little bit of that to him. He even got into a fight today on the field with Drake Nugent. He kind of took a swipe at him. So, there is a little bit of an edge to Jalen Graham. And I think that, he may not play every down, but I think there is a role for him on this defense if he can be consistent enough. Today was a good day from him. And I think you like to see some fire from a young player in a positional group that doesn't have three solid starters so far. So a good day from him. And Jalen Mahoney, UDFA out of Vanderbilt. Usually it's a baseball school. Today it was a football school. Jalen Mahoney, he hasn't shown up a lot, but I think so far he's at least done enough to be a practice squad player. And I wouldn't be shocked if, someone goes down or someone gets hurt, that he's that elevated guy to be a special teams player for the day. I think that, there's a lot needed with him in coverage, but he had a really nice red zone breakup against Cam Latu. And I was like, okay, like there's instincts there. There's pass coverage skills there. He knows what to do with his hands. And I think for a cornerback safety hybrid to go up against Cam Latu, who's a bigger body guy, right? Which I know he isn't very good so far and, hasn't done much yet, but Mahoney showed his own and he kind of held his own against Cam Latu. It was a good sign. Okay, cool. Like may not be a lot there, but there is something there. Dante Johnson played for a freaking decade in San Francisco, and there wasn't a lot there, but he was consistent enough. He was solid enough to make that fringe 6th, 7th, cornerback safety spot on the roster. So I could see Mahoney being that for a year or two while he's in San Francisco, unless someone picks him up. There is something there I like, but I think, it's going to take a little bit more time for me to say he's going to make the team or he'll be a practice squad player for sure. But there is something there with Mahoney that I do like. Jake Moody, as we always end shows, Jake Moody again, 4 for 4, 33 yards, hit there twice, 38 yards, hit there twice as well, 22 for 23 in camp. I'm having a bowl of crow every single day so far, and I love it. Crow is delicious, whether I'm putting it in lasagna or making a quesadilla or having a bowl myself. The crow Jake Moody's making me eat is just yummy. Put it on the Betty Crocker recipe. I'll give it to you guys in the YouTube chat. It is delicious. Jake Moody looks phenomenal so far. But yeah, it was a good day from Jake Moody. Today's practice was shorter, a little less intensity on the field. I think the biggest story was Brock Purdy and Pearsall by far. Pearsall was just, again, another level where if you haven't been at training camp just yet, all you've seen is small clips of running around against air, or you're hearing reports like mine or others out there. Man, I can't even say his name. Ricky Pearsall. I cannot wait for you to see him in preseason, because he is just, I wasn't there for Aiyuk's first camp, so I can't talk about it. And I wasn't there for Deebo Samuel's first camp, but for Pearsall's first camp in the last couple of days, there's been a lot to like. You can see, go back and watch my mock drafts. Go back and watch my scouting report on him. Everything I say was on display today. And it wasn't perfect, but it was really pretty. Really, really pretty. Lori Matthews asks, what do you make of the hug from Brandon Aiyuk to Kyle Shanahan? Does it mean a a deal is done? No. Was it a little more kind? It does feel like things, well, they're not on bad terms, while, there's no animosity there. There is a struggle to see who can get paid more and how much he will get paid. I think they're kind of in this frozen tug of war where it's like, I'm pulling and you're pulling, but that rope is not moving, right? So you know, I think the hug, it being a little more friendly, you can tell there was a little more openness from Brandon Aiyuk, and I can't believe I'm dissecting a freaking hug during training camp. It usually means nothing, right? But that's where things are, right? We're dissecting hugs and high fives and handshakes and whatnot, right? God, I love this team and the drama it causes, but I think it's a big deal. I think while I wouldn't go as far as Bobo here saying a deal is imminent, I will say that, again, for Aiyuk to be a little more reserved, to be a little more, even on his first day out there, where he was kind of making it known he was there, he wasn't being loud. He wasn't, smiling and talking to Shanahan. He wasn't walking up to them. They were walking up to him. And that was only John Lynch. So I think that when you're seeing Aiyuk be more open and kind of be more willing to talk to the head coach and the general manager, the first few days, it kind of felt like things were awkward of like, what are they saying? What's that conversation like? Like, oh, did he get in trouble? Like, oh, got called into the principal's office. And we can joke about that stuff, but those couple first days felt, for lack of better terms, a little more dreadful in regards to the future of Brandon Aiyuk, or at least, how things are being handled. But today was, by all intents and purposes, all butterflies and rainbows. It was like he's smiling, they're joking, they're laughing. He's watching practice with Talanoa Funga and Dante Whitner. It was a good sight to see for a player that has had an unfortunate offseason of wanting to get paid and seeing everybody else get paid besides him, and feeling, I'm sure, a little bit like he's undervalued and underappreciated. I do think it was a good thing to see of like, okay, like Ayuk's not checked out. He's not bitter. He's not angry, and he's going to be okay. That, things are, the relationship is fine. And I think, for Aiyuk, I think for him, a lot of it really, truly is, what can he do to stay on the team? And I think he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. They're going to pay him. But I do think that, whether it's in the upcoming days or the couple of weeks, we are going to see breaking news. Adam Schefter, Niners signed Brandon Aiyuk to a 4-year deal with $110 million or $112 million for $28 million per year and $80 million guaranteed. That's going to come across your screen in the next few weeks. It's going to happen. I firmly believe that. And I think today, whether it means something or not, just the fact that he's there, he's being open with the team and he's communicating, he's in meetings, and he's, again, smiling, having fun with teammates and coaches. That's all you can kind of ask for a guy who's not practicing. He's there. And he's seemingly having a good time today. Alex George says, how are the tight ends playing out? Alex, there's George Kittle. And I think Eric Saubert is your tight end number 2 so far. Logan Thomas hasn't done much at all, like really at all. And it's not what you want from a player that could be your tight end 2. Cam Latu's picked things up the last few days. Last 2 days, better receiver than blocker. Today, much better blocker than receiver. But overall, the tight end position has yet to be decided. But that's all we have for today's show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. If you would kindly like, share, and subscribe if you're listening on the audio platforms, leave us a 5-star review. But anything you want in the review comments, just give us 5 stars. It's the freest and easiest way to help the show grow. And to help you save some money, you can use our promo code 49ERSAccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Have a beer on us. Have it take care of your parking. Whatever you choose, save $20 off by using our promo code at SeatGeek.com. That's all we have for you today. My name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, stay faithful.